Hey, everybody, this is Andrew Hutchinson. I'm the managing editor of HawgBeat.com, the Arkansas site in the Rivals Network. If you're watching or listening to this, congratulations. You made it. It's officially game week, and in a few days, Arkansas will be kicking off the 2021 season against Rice. Something I did near the end of baseball season and want to continue during football season is chatting with an expert on the Hogs' upcoming opponent. In most cases, that means finding somebody who covers them on a regular basis. And the guy I'm joined with this week does an excellent job of covering the Owls. Matthew Bartlett is the editor of The Roost, which is one of the top sources for Rice sports news anywhere on the internet. He was kind enough to give us some time to preview the Hogs season opener. Matthew, how are you today?
Hey, Andrew. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to start off with kind of more of a broad question. I know Rice, they went 2-3 last year. It was a weird pandemic season. But they did beat a ranked Marshall team. They were competitive on all three of their losses. What's kind of the mood around the program, both among the fan base and the people there in the football building entering 2021?
Well, the mood and expectations are getting fairly high to where they've been. When Mike Bloomgren was brought in the 2018 season, this is a team that had lost a lot of talent and was in a full-blown rebuild. And over the past couple years, we've seen that win total tick up a game or two each year, and the talent level get to a point where it can compete. And so 2020 was actually the year most people circled as, all right, we're going to be there. We'll be ready. We'll have the team there. And then COVID happened, and they had a crazy rash of injuries in 5 games out of 12. So that's kind of put it on pause for a year. The Marshall win kind of solidified that, okay, things are going in the right direction. But now all eyes are turned to 2021 is the breakthrough year for the Owls.
And let's kind of talk about that 2021 team. I know the number one thing people always want to talk about is the quarterback position. I know even here at Arkansas, where KJ Jefferson's been the clear starter, it's been a topic all offseason. You've been lucky or unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to cover a true quarterback battle in camp. From your perspective, how was that unfolded between Wiley Green and Luke McCaffrey?
Well, I'll say this is the fourth fall camp under Mike Bloomgren, and it's the 4th year in a row I've covered a quarterback battle that's gone up to basically the final week. So maybe luck is in the eye of the beholder. I'm certainly ready for a guy if we get there. Bloomgren said during his media availability this week that both guys were going to play. I think really it comes down to 2 things. First, the athleticism that Luke McCaffrey possesses is unrivaled compared to anybody else on this roster. He ran circles around Big Ten opponents and made it look easy, especially on the ground. He's got a good arm, so that's there. What he lacks is something that Wiley Green, his challenger, has, and Wiley's been here for 4 years. And this is not a conventional high school kind of college morph spread that has 7 plays and a couple of shifts thrown in. It's a complicated pro offense. So that's kind of made things interesting where Wiley clearly can run. He can talk the scheme as well, if not better than some of his coaches. And McCaffrey has that athleticism and can move around, and has Bloomgren called his right arm a howitzer during the presser this week. So he can do a couple things. He just might not know the full breadth of the playbook to the same degree. So I think you'll see both of them on Saturday, and I think you'll get a good dose of that until Rice figures out if there's going to be a guy.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my next question. I mean, he did say that both of them are going to play, and you mentioned this is your 4th year covering a quarterback battle, and so I was wondering, like, in the past, has he used 2 guys before? And when he says 2 guys, I mean, is it truly going to be a 50-50, or do you think one guy may take the majority of the snaps and the other guy get a series here and there? Or what's your take on what you think might unfold on Saturday?
So the past couple years, it's been a bunch of guys with probably comparable skill sets, not anyone with the rushing component that McCaffrey brings. Giovanni Johnson, who is an Arkansas native, he has played a couple of past years, and he's handled more of the wildcat, so to speak, snaps, and done more with his legs than through the air. So I think in years past, it's kind of been alternatum series or 2 series or so until you find the right guy. I think that might be something that the coaching staff tries this year. with how impressive McCaffrey has looked with his arm, I don't foresee this being a situation where he's brought in just to run. I think that would be a gross misuse of his ability.
Gotcha. And I think that's probably enough quarterback talk for now. I want to get into some of the other aspects of Rice's offense. Who are the other playmakers that Barry Odom and the Razorbacks are going to have to scheme up to stop, and how are they used in Rice's system?
I think it starts on offense with Bradley Rosner. He was a guy who missed all of last season with injuries. But by the time Rice got down to their final game, they had one scholarship wide receiver available to practice, and he was hurt. So they're bringing back so many guys. So Rosner's that big body who can go up and get it, and is going to be able to contend with some of the SEC defensive backs he's going to run into. And then you have guys like Jake Bailey, who is more of your slot underneath guy who can do a couple things. He's going to be kind of the go-to option on those third medium kind of plays. So those two in the receiving game. Jordan Myers is officially listed as a running back. He was a high school running back, has played tight end for Rice, split out wide as a slot wide receiver. He's kind of the do-it-all guy. So you'll probably see him involved a lot as well. So it's going to be a good mix. They like their running backs. Kalen Griffin is a redshirt freshman that came on strong last year and is going to get probably the bulk amount of the carries as Rice tries to, ground and pound. So there's going to be a lot of guys involved, and there's a lot of pieces.
Yeah, that leads me right into my next question. Sam Pittman earlier this week described the Owls' offensive philosophy as bully ball because they want to run control the clock, run the ball down your throat. Is that an accurate description of the kind of offense they like to run, and is anything going to change? I know they hired a new offensive coordinator for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. That is what it is. Their mantra is intellectual brutality. And Bloomgren always goes with pound the rock, run the clock, and play great defense. That's what they're going to try and do. I think the influence you've seen so far during camp with the new OC, Marquez Tuiasosopo, has really been maybe a little bit more shifts implemented into the scheme and moving people around. They have done a little bit of open personnel 5 wide, which is something that you don't typically see from a team that likes to run with fullbacks. So they're going to throw a lot of different things at you, but at the end of the day, it's going to be finding different formations and different ways to find a weakness that they can get to on the Arkansas front and pick up yards on the ground.
And now let's flip to maybe the other side of the ball. Looking at the depth chart, it looks like Rice runs a 3-4. Is that right? And how would you characterize the defense there led by DC Brian Smith?
It's unique. It's kind of a 3-4, more so a 4-3. Kenneth Orji at that rush in position will have his hand on the ground sometimes. He'll be standing up sometimes. They kind of like to mix it around, and that kind of goes for Trayshawn Chamberlain, who's listed as the Viper. It's kind of college football has kind of morphed into whatever. Everybody has a different name for it, but it's that guy who is a linebacker who has to cover sometimes. And so he'll line up at deep safety. He'll line up at the line. He'll do a lot of things. So he's kind of the linchpin of the Brian Smith defense, but it's really going to, what he wants to do is trust his corners to go play on the outside on an island and then find different creative ways to bring pressure in the middle.
Gotcha. And it looks like, just looking at the roster and everything, Rice, like a lot of the teams in college football this year, have a ton of guys back. And I know that it was against a little bit of a limited schedule because, as you said, all the COVID issues and stuff happened last year. But Rice did rank in the top 25 in scoring and total defense. So who are the top guys on that side of the ball? And do you think having all that experience from last year and having success last year is going to lead to them maybe making another jump in 2021?
Yeah, I think they ended up finishing 12th in defense in the nation, which is not bad considering when they took over a couple years ago that they were outside the top 100 in defense. So 3-year turnaround from 100 to 12 is, you'll take it. Anybody will take that. I think the guys to know, George Nyakwal and Naeem Smith, I think Naeem played in the last 2 games of last year, but those guys basically missed the entire season for Rice. They're 2 veteran safeties who can make plays and most importantly will make sure the ball stays in front of them, which is huge. So those 2 guys on the back end, they do lose Blaze Aldridge at linebacker. He's playing at Mizzou now, so y'all will see him again at some point this year. He was a difference maker, but the staff feels really, really comfortable about the battle going on in camp between Myron Morrison and Desmond Baker. And then you got Antonio Montero, who's probably going to looking at like 100 tackle seasons. So those are really good. And then you got a host of guys. I think one of the things the defense is most excited about this year is the depth they have in the front seven and on the defensive line. You'll see guys like Trey Schumann and Elijah Garcia kind of be the anchor, but you'll see a lot of bodies go through as much as possible to try and keep up with the tempo that Arkansas is going to throw at them.
And the last thing I got for you is I'm just wondering kind of what the excitement level is to the start of this season for Rice. I mean, they got Arkansas, Houston, and Texas. Not only are those good football programs, but also it's some old Southwest Conference foes. Is there a little extra layer of excitement, starting the year with three teams like that?
Yeah, I think so. It depends on who you ask. There's a little bit of a nervous excitement because, we talked at the beginning of this about how people really do have high expectations for this season. And it starts off, Arkansas, Houston, and Texas are probably three of the best 4 or 5 teams on the schedule, and you get them out of the gate. So what you really don't want to do is start out 0-3 or with a couple more losses going into the conference slate. So there's excitement. It's always fun when you get to play those teams that you recognize, because no offense, but like, people don't get up for Western Kentucky the same way they do for Arkansas. It's just not going to happen. So the name brand is fun. Playing those big games and making those big trips is going to be exciting. But at the end of the day, Rice is going to have to put something together and figure out how to win a couple of those games. And how they go well in that stretch is kind of going to set the floor maybe for how the rest of the season plays out.
Well, I know I'm really looking forward to getting things started on Saturday. I know it's going to be a hot day in Fayetteville whenever they kick off, but I know fans won't mind it because football's back. And I just want to send out a reminder to everybody, the game is going to be on SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus, so it's streaming only. If that confuses you, don't worry. I've got an explainer piece on HawgBeat.com. You can go check it out. It'll explain exactly how you can make sure you watch the Razorbacks this weekend. Also, be sure to head over to atheroost.com. Check out Matthew's coverage of the Owls. And until then, I guess I'll see y'all Saturday.